Tennessee This Week from WATE 6 on your side starts now.
Early voting starts this week. We're going to meet City Council candidates David Hayes and Janet Testerman. Support and pushback as Governor Bill Lee asks Tennesseans to join him in a day of prayer, humility, and fasting. Plus a call for the state to ban certain vaping products, a debate that is sweeping the country amid a still unexplained illness right now on Tennessee This Week. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tennessee This Week. I'm Kristen Farley. We are rounding out our run-up to the Knoxville City general election with the start of early voting coming up on Wednesday. Today, our focus, the race for Knoxville City Council at-large seat B. Now, looking back at the August primary, Janet Testerman was the top vote getter with 60% to 40% of the vote for David Hayes. And today, those are our two guests here in the studio. David and Janet, thank you so much for coming in.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Let's just first start off with, for the voters who are watching right now, I know you guys have been busy and getting out in a lot of debates and forums. For people who aren't familiar, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to run for this.
So I was born in Knoxville, born and raised, and I'm currently CEO of Young Williams Animal Center, and I've also worked with EW Scripps and also Scripps Networks Interactive, two of our city's largest employers, and also had my own business with Testerman Cooperative Catering for nearly a decade. And so I really want to take that experience, I want to take that leadership. I'm excited about the prospect of being a voice for everyone across the city and take it to City Council.
Wonderful. David, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to run.
Yes, so again, my name is David Hayes, running for City Council at-large, seat B, and I'm excited about being able to run for office right now. I'm a proud Tennessean. I've lived in Tennessee my whole life. I lived in Knoxville when I was young, moved to Middle Tennessee for grade school, and lived my whole adult life here in Knoxville. I'm only 27, so looking to bring some new, fresh political leadership to the City Council. I'm an activist, a proud parent, so I've been dedicating my life to fighting for equity and justice and self-determination for all people, and I'm running for City Council right now because I want to see Knoxville for all. The same sort of status quo, the same sort of political leadership that's been running the city has been working for all Knoxvillians. So I represent the Knoxvillians and the Knoxvillians who haven't had the voice listened to and who haven't had a seat at the table.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to some of the issues right now. We want to begin with the Knoxville Police Department has definitely been under scrutiny as of late. People have called for answers about and action taken in response to a deadly officer-involved shooting. Now, separately, the department launched an internal affairs investigation over claims of misconduct involving officers and alleged inappropriate comments and how a complaint about those were actually handled. So let's go ahead and start with you, David. What steps would you like to see when it comes to KPD and changing what some people are saying is a troubled culture there right now?
I would agree with some of those assessments. I believe it gets down to making institutional changes. We can't just do facelifts. So when looking at KPD, we need to be able to change the structure so the community can actually have accountability, right? So we have something called the Police Advisory and Review Committee. So we need to add more teeth to that, making sure it's more representative to the community, making sure that whenever officers mess up, they are disciplined, and making sure that the community actually have a say in what the police policies are. Things like the use of force policy. The communities have a voice in what that is. Because until we make those institutional changes and until we start focusing on the root causes of crime, being poverty and cycles of violence, we're going to continue to see more and more violence. We're going to continue to see more mass incarceration, more police brutality, and we need people who's actually going to stand up to the police for the best interests of Knoxvillians.
Janet, what do you think needs to happen when it comes to KPD?
You know, I do think culture. I mean, first of all, I go back to, I think we have roughly 375 men and women on that force right now, and we're budgeted for 416. So they are in crisis employment right now. And I go back and say that, the conversation needs to be about recruiting, training and development, and retaining our officers. And culture, I mean, we do need transparency. We do need to build mutual trust and respect across our community and within the community with our officers. But we need to support them as well and give them and equip them with the tools that they need to be successful.
Do you think there is an issue with trust in the police department and the community right now?
I think there has been, but I think it's been on both sides, but I think we really need to address. I mean, this isn't just a Knoxville problem, this is a nationwide problem. And so it is something we need to give a great deal of attention to.
David, do you think there's a problem of trust from the community to the police department right now?
Yes, and there will always be mistrust as long as we have police officers who act without impunity, without accountability. Like Janet said, we have enough money budgeted for the police officers we need, right? So the issue of people not applying for those jobs, that comes down to the perception, that comes down to the harmful acts that unfortunately police are doing every day. So until we change those acts, until the community has more power to hold the police department accountable, we're never going to see much trust.
All right, let's go ahead and move on and talk about the Knoxville city as a whole, growing and changing right now. A lot of people say, yeah, we want growth, but we don't want to lose our character, our kind of small town feel. So how do you make sure that we don't miss out on improvements or other opportunities while still kind of preserving what Knoxville is, Janet?
Well, Knoxville's incredibly unique. I mean, we have so many great assets, so much character to this city. I do say, and I've said this since day one, that we're at a crossroads of change with leadership in this city. I mean, new county mayor, new city mayor, new head of KEB, TVA, UT transitions. And so with that, we've got to focus too on leveraging our city and creating opportunities, because we have businesses divesting in our community, transitioning out of our community. So for me, it's about building the tax base so we can fund the much needed social services that our community needs, be it homelessness, opioid crisis, those things. But I think we have a great deal of character. I think people are invested in that and want to maintain that. So, it's a healthy balance.
David, how do you think Knoxville moves and grows in the right way?
I would agree that right now we are in a crossroads of change. We have one direction, which is going to status quo, which is the same type of economic development that we've seen for decades, right? That had us in a situation where we have some of the highest inequality in the country. We've been rated second recently behind New York City and San Francisco. We have 42% of Black Knoxvillians living in poverty. These things are unacceptable, so we need to transform the way we do economic development and use some new strategies and making sure that whenever we have contracts, for instance, that we're contracting local businesses, we're supporting local businesses, and instead of just giving less than 1% of Black businesses contracts, we expand that so more people can be involved in the development of our city.
Let's go ahead and talk about Recode Knoxville. That is another way that people have been looking at how our city is going to grow here. There was a lot of questions about how things were handled. Was there enough advance warning? Was there enough meetings? Do people really understand it? David, how do you feel about the process as a whole? It's passed, but how do you feel about the way it was handled?
So I've been critical of Recode from day one. I like to say that we want to see democracy for all. We can't have a Knoxville for all without democracy, right? So democracy means everybody having a say in what goes on and affects their communities. You'll hear that the city has had 90 community meetings about Recode. But if I go to any neighborhood and knock on each door and ask, do you know about Recode? Do you know how your neighborhood is shifting, how it's changing, right? We're going to get a lot of responses of, I don't know. And it's not enough just to expect Knoxvillians to come out to the neighborhood association to get involved when so much of the information is inaccessible, right? And there's not really much resources or capacity to outreach. So I think whenever we do these sort of processes, that we should have more people engaged, be spending money on that engagement, and making sure that we're not passing anything that doesn't have the consent of people in the neighborhood.
How do you get more people engaged? I think that's one of the big struggles that people are facing. How do you get more people involved?
Yes, so like right now we have neighborhood associations, right? Then the city office is only like 2 or 3 people working in that. We need to have a robust office. We need to be having staff, and we need to use multiple ways of getting in contact with people, from the mail, from door knocks, from social media. Use all means accessible, and I have confidence, I have faith that people will come out to things if they know their voice will be heard. It's hard to come out to things continue to advocate for change, to advocate for what you need, but continue not to be heard. So once people see that their voices will reflect it and action will be taken off their voices, I think so many more people will get involved in the process.
Janet, let's turn to you real quickly with Recode Knoxville here. How did you feel about the process and how this was handled?
I think there could have been better messaging up front. I know there was some late messaging to property owners, but there were a lot of meetings. And I go back to, we have been to participated in countless forums. We've participated in countless neighborhood association meetings. And so I do think the onus is on us as individuals, as residents, as citizens who care about our neighborhoods, who care about our communities, to show up, to be a part of the process, to speak, share your vision, share your hope for that particular area. So there's got to be an accountability on our part to show up and be a part of the process.
Any idea how you would want to get more people involved and feel that sense of accountability? Because we hear it when we talk about voter turnout as well, just not enough people are involved in the process.
That again, I don't think that's a unique problem to Knoxville. But how do we get more employee engagement, or I say employee engagement because it's very similar in running a business and trying to get employees involved in the process, but getting residents involved in the process and in issues. And again, we have a lot of issues on the table. We have a lot of projects, feasibility studies, kinds of things going in. So I think too, I'm a believer of a strategic plan for this city, and again, that needs to be part of a community discussion as well.
We have time for one last topic, and I really do want to get this one in. There was a recent vote to ban gun shows on city-owned property. Janet, how would have you voted on that and why?
You know, I am a supporter, big supporter of our Second Amendment. At the same time, you know, I've also gone to several forums with, say, Moms Demand Action, and they're not anti-gun, they're just anti-education and kind of common sense strategy to, you know, to address, you know, gun issues in our community. I think it's a compromise. I mean, you know, we do have private property such as Expo Center where you know, gun shows are being held. So effectively, you know, the city's not competing with private enterprise as well, and we have other options. So I think it's a compromise.
David, how would have you voted and why?
First off, I want to say that we shouldn't be running our local government like a business. We should be running local governments like democratic institutions, and it's different than a for-profit business. How would I vote? I would have supported it. I believe that this is public land. This is in East Knoxville. We have so many gun zones. We have places where East Knoxville is a place where we're trying to lower gun violence. So having gun shows in Shahawi Park, and not only just gun shows, you know, there are white extremists and white terrorists and white supremacists who come out and table at these things, right? So we have known bad actors who we are just putting public land to their use. So I think it makes complete sense to actually say, okay, the private sector can host these, and when it comes to city buildings, anything that happens on city property, anything that happens on public property has a benefit to the community, and especially the surrounding community.
All right, unfortunately, we have to leave that topic there. David, Janet, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, still to come, a group representing Tennessee doctors wanting the state to ban some vaping products. Our panel of pundits weighing in next. Stay with us. You're watching Tennessee This Week on WATE 6 on your side. Welcome back, everyone, to Tennessee This Week. It is time now to hear from our panel of pundits today. And joining us here in the studio, we have WATE 6 on your side healthcare analyst Craig Griffith, attorney Terry Adams, and WATE 6 on your side political analyst George Corda. Gentlemen, good to see all three of you.
Glad to see you.
All right, we just heard from David Hayes and Janet Testerman. So let's just go right down the aisle here. What did you think of their responses? Anything surprise you here?
No, I've heard these discussions several times in both the primary and the general election, and I've been through a lot of city council races. And one thing I think that the progressive movement in this campaign has done is frame some questions in a different way than has occurred before, addressing more of what are you going to do about the poverty, the social injustice, things like that. And whether you think that's the role for the city or not is up to your own personal opinion. But it has raised questions that I haven't heard before. And in this particular race, as was pointed out, Janet got 10,000 votes, the most votes of any person in the election. And so we seem it'll be pretty difficult for David to overcome that lead in the general.
Terry, are you hearing anything that's really separating these two candidates right now? What's standing out the most for you?
Well, I mean, I think that they couldn't be any different. I mean, you really have Janet, who's sort of a middle of the road status quo kind of person that would run for city council, and then David seems to me like he's a social justice kind of community advocate type individual who really has his talking points down. I was pretty impressed with how eloquent he was talking about a lot of different issues that you brought up.
George, what did you think from the responses that we heard today? And again, there have been quite a few forums throughout this campaign cycle as well.
Well, I think there's a similarity somehow between the answers that we get, or that you get, when you ask these candidates, not just these two, but other candidates, questions. The one about the police department interests me because there are two instances cited, and that's all. Knoxville Police Department is out there 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. There is not, from appearances, some sort of large-scale problem related to the police department that is demanding immediate action by elected officials. And I think if there is, I think all of this is coming as a bit of a surprise to Mayor O'Hara and her police chief. I don't.
The recent
think-
march down to a city council meeting, though, an entire community coming together and the march to the city council meeting.
Well, you can take an incident and make it a crisis, or you can have a crisis that comes out of one incident. But I can't see any consistent, repetitive, clear indication that there is some sort of community-wide, widespread agitation, irritation, or anger toward the police department. Look, the police are never going to be universally loved. The things they do not cause them to be universally loved, and you're always going to have police officers who aren't doing the job the right way. You just have to, and that's going to be true in any city you go to. You just have to ferret out the ones that aren't doing it right and hire people who will do it right. But I don't see that there's this crisis that all these council candidates are talking about in the police department.
Would you gentlemen agree?
Well, I'll tell you this, that one of the biggest crises we have is when we're having these conversations, people treat the community and the police like they're two separate and distinct things. The police officers in this city are part of our community as well. And if there's a bad officer, I promise you, 99.9% of everybody in that police department want them out. I mean, they're bad seeds. I don't think George is right. I don't think that we're going down a road where we're always going to have these kind of issues. I think the world gets better. We progress. And obviously, when an entire community comes out and marches, hey, if you are an elected official, maybe you ought to listen.
Craig?
Well, I think going back to the incidents that occurred when I was with the city, there can be a tremendous undercurrent of dissatisfaction with the police department that often isn't readily obvious to people in power. And that certainly occurred in the Stinson issue when the entire city council building was filled up with people. So you need to be upfront and take proactive steps to address community policing issues. And I think that that's what this mayor and I think that's what this police chief wants to do.
All right, I need to remind everyone real quickly, early voting starts this Wednesday, October 16th. It runs through October 31st. This is the City of Knoxville general election. Again, make sure that you get out and vote. And the big one on the ballot, of course, is mayor. We also have city council at large seat A, B, C, and council district 5. Now, we want to go ahead and move on to some of the other big issues from this past week, everyone. One of the big ones, Governor Bill Lee declared Thursday a day of prayer and fasting for the state of Tennessee. We heard a mix of support and some opposition as well. So, Terry, I'm going to start with you. Do you think it was in line? Was it okay for the governor to make this kind of proclamation?
Well, I mean, do we want our elected officials telling us, how to behave in our religious life? No. Does this state and this country and all around people need to eat a little less and pray a little more? Yeah, they should. I mean, so I get what he's trying to say. Using it from the bully pulpit of the governor's mansion, I don't know that that's the best place to do it. I mean, perhaps he ought to have an evangelical television show.
George, I know you were active on social media talking about this issue.
I think this is the stupidest thing that I've run across in a long time, that there is angst and anger over a governor issuing a proclamation calling people to voluntarily pray and fast for the state. Presidents, governors, even mayors have been doing this in the United States since there has been a United States. In fact, there's this, oh my gosh, we can't have this connection between church and state. What's an interesting thing, when the Bill of Rights was passed with the First Amendment, 3 days after Congress approved the Bill of Rights, you know what they did? They hired a chaplain to attend to the spiritual needs of members of Congress. This is not the Soviet Union, this is not North Korea, and it's not communist China. There is not we've got to excise any suggestion that spiritual or faith life has to be completely separate because we've got to be this atheistic government where elected officials can't even talk about this. This is what governors do. And what it's actually doing is helping Lee, not hurting him, that you got people griping about it.
And Craig, he ran on this. Bill Lee was not quiet about his faith and about how important it was to him. Are you surprised there's opposition? Or what was your take on this whole proclamation?
Well, I'm not surprised that there's opposition, no, but I'm also not surprised that he's done it. I mean, as you said, faith was the cornerstone of his campaign, and so to say that this is out of character for him certainly is not out of character. He ran on, being faith-based by trying to help the rural areas, and so help the farmers. So he's just being true to what he did as a candidate, and this has been done by elected officials, office holders throughout the history of the country. So, it's just another thing that people who like to see a much more bright line of separation between church and state can complain about.
All right, we're going to leave that topic there right now. Still to come, everyone, a doctors group urging steps to ban certain vaping products. Stay with us. We're going to talk about that when we come back. You're watching Tennessee This Week on WATE 6 on your side. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week, everyone. The conversation continuing right now with Craig, Terry, and George. Again, gentlemen, thank you so very much.
Glad to be here.
Let's go ahead and talk about a big topic really all across the country right now. But the Tennessee Medical Association, a nonprofit representing doctors here in our state, just last week called on the governor and the legislature to take action over vaping-related illnesses. Now, the support a ban on the sale of flavored vaping products, a step several other states have already taken. Now, Governor Lee said this week that a ban without really knowing the cause would be inappropriate, but the state needs to track this. So, George, let's start with you. Should Tennessee go ahead with a ban?
No. This is, again, a stupid thing. If we're going to ban something harmful, let's start with alcohol. Alcohol kills a lot of people. Alcohol results in a lot of cost to society. Let's ban it. Look,
I thought we did for a while.
I've never smoked. I've never even tried it. Both my parents smoked. I spent my whole childhood looking for a place to breathe. I don't like it. I think it's stupid. I think it's dumb. But government butt out. If people want to do this, if the American Medical Association really wants to ban something, find things that are really hurting people and ban them. Why don't we just ban everything and then let somebody come in and say, okay, now we're going to allow this, now we're going to. I don't like vaping. I don't think people ought to do it, but if they want to, it's their business.
So should it be regulated then more? There's a lot of people complaining it's targeting kids and there's not enough known and it's killing our kids.
No, I think government should be involved in telling everybody what we ought to do all the time.
No sarcasm at all.
Oh, that's completely sarcastic.
I know. Craig?
Where there's smoke, there's fire. There is some unknowns in this whole vaping issue, and it hasn't been around for a century and a half like regular cigarette smoking is. So I think there is some cause for concern. Whether it's banned or not, I don't know that you're ever going to get anybody to put a full ban through on vaping. But I think there are questions that need to be answered as whether it's a safe product, and as long as it doesn't have the protection, like the gun industry does, where you can't have product liability suits against it, so that it can actually be tested as to whether it is a safe product, then that's the way to go, I think.
We're starting to see schools putting out anti-vaping campaigns. I do believe that some have also banned it on their school property. Is that taking it too far?
Well, I think in that case, it should be the same as smoking tobacco products. There's no reason why you should be able to vape if you can't smoke. So I think that that's more than fine.
Terry, if a ban goes through, are there going to be some legal ramifications to this?
Well, sure, but here's the problem. People have dropped dead from vaping. The product has been sold and advertised as a safe alternative to tobacco. Somebody needs to be held accountable. Should it be banned by the government? Maybe. I mean, isn't one of the services that the government, isn't that to promote the public welfare? Is it promoting the public welfare to have a product out there that people are dropping dead from that is being promoted as a safe alternative to something else? I mean, I think that there should be an intelligent debate, and it shouldn't be just cut off by George. Like unilaterally.
No, what I'm saying is this. If you want to study it and find out, sure, do that. But there is somebody out there advocating the banning of everything. People want meat banned because they say it's dangerous. People want sugar banned. There is somebody who wants everything banned.
But heroin and cocaine is banned.
Yeah, exactly.
So
should they not be?
Should they not be?
Because that can potentially have an effect on other people. Alcohol, on that basis, alcohol should be banned.
And
But that didn't
I'll
work out.
agree with that.
But that didn't work
So I'm
out
not
so
for
well.
prohibition. I'm not for prohibition.
Yeah, I just,
So-
I dislike the idea. I dislike the idea. We think this might be a problem. Ban it. I think
Well,
is
it's
too
like
boring.
seatbelts in automobiles. I mean, you know, for years they weren't mandated that you had to wear
And
them.
now
They
they
shouldn't
are.
be now.
They
All
should-
right, we will
it's
continue
a
to talk
public-
about this in the weeks to come. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Sorry to cut you off. That's going to do it, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back next Sunday.
I'm going to try to be more.
The views of guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Next Star Broadcasting.